Okay, so an activity that I would do to introduce students to fractions is starting with the fractions of a whole. I would talk to them. I would first just try to get them to think about fractions, and they probably don't realize of the amount of fractions they use in their daily lives without realizing it. So I would talk to them about, I have a whole cookie and I want to share it with a friend. If I have just one whole cookie, can I share it? And see what the kids come up with. They'll more than likely say, yeah, you can cut it in half. So then we'll talk about, if I divide it in half, I can share it with a friend, and then talk about what fraction represents each half of the cookie, so 1/2, and we would write it on the board to show them how it would be represented in a written form, and talk about like different ways that we would be able to divide it. What if we had 4 friends and 2 cookies, and we'll just go through this together. And then for individual practice, I would have manipulatives for them. So this is one that I really like because it's fun to show them. So you use it with pool noodles to show them one, and then the halves, and the different combinations they can do for all of them. And so these would be manipulatives that they can use while working with the fractions and kind of figuring it out. I would start out with just whole, halves, thirds, and fourths just to get them started. And there's other manipulatives like these blocks that I would have available for the kids to use as well. And also these, so you can get these magnetic to be able to put them on whiteboards, or not magnetic, so that way you can use them on the tables. So I would use these to help them visualize it a little bit better. I would have them work in small groups of different scenarios. So I would give them an index card with a different scenario and have them figure out how they would do it. Like, so one of them, it would be, okay, you have 8 friends coming to your birthday party and you have 2 pizzas. How could you divide it up evenly? How many parts of a whole, how much of a whole will each of your friends get? Or, you have a candy bar that you want to share with 3 friends. How much of a candy bar will they get, or a pie, and so forth. And each group would have different ones, and they would work together trying to figure it out of equal parts. And then they would share their scenario with the class and explain how they got there to their answer. One of the misconceptions talked about in our textbooks is on number 3 on page 385. Number 4 is struggle to find common denominator, lack of fluency with basic facts and with common multiples. So for the example I gave in here was students is given 5/6 minus 1/4 equals what, and is unsure what to use for a denominator. And so I picked this one because I've seen this happen actually with a lot of students this past last 6 months doing my observations for various classes. And I noticed that students seem to struggle with this quite often. And one of the ways that I would help students with this is not only, make sure that they're familiar with their multiplication facts, because that's going to really help them, but show them a couple of visuals and videos that help explain it. So this is one that I really like that I saw a teacher show her 3rd grade students from Math Antics, and it's just helping them show common denominators. And so they have them use scratch paper and write it out. So I'm not going to play the video or anything to show how they explain it, but I just wanted to show this box here. So you have 2 columns, one for each of the denominators, and then you start just writing out the multiples. And some of them you may need longer ones, but the students write these out, and then they stop and they try to find what the lowest common multiple of each number is. So in this case, 3 and 4, they'd be able to see that right here, 12 is the lowest one. And so I would just teach them how to do this on a scratch paper whenever they're having troubles, and just remind them to write it out, and remind them that they may need to go, down all the way to 9 or 12, depending on what numbers they're working on, to figure out which one is the least common denominator. On Toy Theater, I really like most of, or all of the ones they have for fractions. But since we already did a lot of our discussion on fractions, I wanted to talk about the percentage strips. So these, basically you can just drag and drop here to compare the different percentages, and you can, add them up to figure out, how much you need for each one to equal. And I like this because it helps provide the kids with a visual rather than just trying to explain it. It's another visual for them. And it's color coordinated, so that way it's easier for the kids to understand and to compare them. It's really easy just to clear and to start over. And with these online math manipulatives, they're better than doing like hands-on ones, because they're more accessible. So not all classrooms are going to have fraction strips, percentage strips. They're not going to have, all these pie chart manipulatives and everything, just because of either resources, like financial resources, or it could be storage issues, or it could be that there's too many kids in the class, so there's not enough for every kid. And so this gives access to all the students to all the different math manipulatives, regardless of how much money the school and or teacher has, or how much storage or anything of that sort. It gives access to all students. And in addition to that, students get excited about using technology. Even my own kids, they love being able to have any excuse to use the Chromebooks in the class, and to use my Surface here at home to do things for school, because they're excited to use technology. So providing the kids with the math manipulatives online, there's a little bit of added incentive for the kids to use it, because they just really enjoy using technology, and it gives them great experience using technology, and it's a way for us to introduce new technology to the students. And so I would just use this when I'm teaching percentages. I would just use this as a tool, share it to them, show them how to use it, and have them utilize it as a tool when they are working with percentages, and encourage them to use them to compare, to help them figure out problems, and just explore what the percentages.